All right, so I wanted to do this doctoral class and discussion at this time of year. We are getting ready to celebrate Halloween, and this is the time of year when that holiday has become pretty secular, but it actually has religious origins. The season of All Hallowtide. It connects both with Christianity in the Catholic origins of All Hallowtide, All Saints' Day, All Souls' Day, and it's a time for remembering the dead and honoring the dead. But then there's also connections to other religious origins. Samhain, I think, is one of the Celtic traditions. And in both traditions, there's this idea that something about this time of year, the veil between the spiritual world and the natural world gets thinner. I actually wonder if that has to do with the recognition that looking around us in nature, it's as if everything is beginning to die. You know, the leaves are falling. It's sort of the opposite of Easter, where we're celebrating new life. In the fall, we're celebrating new death. And we can actually celebrate it in the sense that we can honor the fact that death is a part of life. And especially in the Swedenborgian New Church tradition, we know that death is not the end, it's just part of the cycle. And that there's this presence of those who have died here with us all the time. So that's why I wanted to do it at this time. Kind of reclaim the holiday as more of a religious holiday. And so, yeah, there's so many truths in the Third Testament that talk about this idea of spirits. And so I'm going to start by talking to you about what I'm not going to talk about tonight, because this is such a huge topic. So tonight we're not going to talk about the process of waking up in the afterlife. That's a whole topic. We're not going to talk about the nature of the world of spirits by itself. That's a whole topic. We're not going to talk about Swedenborg's specific interaction with spirits. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But mostly we're going to talk about our interaction with spirits. Swedenborg also talks about spirits and their connection to different body parts, you know, different parts of the grand human. And that's a fascinating topic that we're not going to talk about tonight. We're not going to talk about near-death experiences. That could be a whole class. And we're also not going to talk about alcohol, in case you saw that spirits and thought, we're not going to talk about alcohol tonight. I'm kind of thinking of this as a chance to, in a spiritual sense, gather around the campfire and share ghost stories, but with more of a religious, spiritual tone to it. So we're going to start with readings. I have quite a few readings. I'm hoping we can get through them because I do want to leave some space for people to share their own experiences. And that might sort of happen organically, or it might happen at the end. But a chance for all of us to share our own experiences of contact with spirits and what that's like. But I want to talk first about what it says in the Third Testament about that. So let's start reading. I'm going to give people a chance to read out loud if they would like, but I'm happy to do a lot of the reading too. I think I'll start. I'm going to start with just a couple of readings about Swedenborg's own experience. We're just going to spend a little time on that before we move on to our experiences. So there's this passage from True Christianity. The general opinion on the state of souls after death, as well as of angels and spirits, is that they are in limbo, and that spirits and angels are ghosts, which are thought of as ether, air, breath, or wind. In fact, souls after death are substantial people who live together like people in the physical world, only with units of space and time that are determined by their states of mind. So this is a general concept that is talked about all throughout the Third Testament, that spirits are people, and they are real people, substantial people. Here, I love this encounter that Swedenborg has recorded in Conjugal 326. I, Swedenborg, entered a state of the spirit, and when a spirit saw me, he said, "Who are you?" As I watched you approaching on the way here, I was astonished to see that 1 minute you would pop into view, the next minute drop out of sight, so that 1 minute I would see you and suddenly then not. Surely you are not in the same life state as our people. Isn't it fascinating that this spirit is having the same experience that we can sometimes have with spirits? Sometimes you see them, sometimes you don't. Gently laughing at this, I replied, "I'm not a marionette nor a chameleon, but I am one who alternates, being sometimes in your light and sometimes not, so that I am an alien and at the same time a native. I live in the world in which you once lived and from which you have departed, which is called the natural world. And I live as well in the world into which you have come and in which you are now living, which is called the spiritual world. I am, as a result, in a natural state and at the same time a spiritual one. In a natural state when I'm with people on earth, and in a spiritual state when I am with you. Moreover, when I am in a natural state, I'm not visible to you. But when I am in a spiritual state, I am. To be as I am is something I have been given by the Lord." And there are many other passages that talk about how Swedenborg's experience is pretty unique. Most of us are not going to have the experiences that Swedenborg had, because this was sort of a special case where he was more conscious of the spiritual world than we most of the time can be. But there are elements of it that can be similar to people's experiences. So I want to go through a couple key doctrinal ideas that are connected to this idea of our contact with spirits while we are in this world. And then I want to kind of read through like the first half of this set of teachings as quickly as we can, because I really want to get to the last half, which is what is about the ways in which we can be in contact. Many of the teachings we're going to start with are talking about how most of the time we just don't have contact with the spiritual world. But there's always that exception to the rule, and I want to dwell on that at the end. So first of all, there's this concept that spirits are connected to us and that we typically have at least 2 angels and 2 evil spirits with us at any time. Would anyone be willing to read that first one, Secrets of Heaven 50? Go ahead, Nancy.
People have no idea whatever that the Lord governs them through angels and spirits, or that at least 2 spirits and 2 angels accompany each of them. The spirits create a link with the world of spirits, and the angels create one with heaven. We cannot possibly live without a channel of communication open to the world of spirits, through spirits, and to heaven through the angels, and in this way to the Lord through heaven. Our life depends totally on such a connection. If the spirits and angels withdrew from us, we would be destroyed in a second. Angels do give us guidance, but they are mere helpers. The Lord alone governs us through angels and spirits.
Thank you. And would anyone be willing to read the next 1 or 2? Kelly.
The reason we have 2 is that there are 2 kinds of spirits in hell and 2 kinds of angels in heaven, corresponding to the 2 human capacities of will and intellect. Secrets of Heaven 5977. We need to be aware that our union with heaven and hell is not directly through them, but is mediated by spirits who are in the world of spirits. These spirits are with us, not from hell itself or heaven itself. We are united to hell through evil spirits in the world of spirits, and with heaven through the good spirits there. Because of this arrangement, the world of spirits is halfway between heaven and hell and is at the point of balance. Heaven and hell 600.
So there's this interesting way in which, even though angels are present with us, we are more directly connected to good spirits who are then connected with angels. There's sort of this extension out. I sort of picture it almost like circles or ripples, where we've got these spirits that are closest to us, who are then connected to other spirits, who are then connected to maybe angels or evil spirits in hell. And so that's a way that we're connected with those worlds. The next set of teachings is about what is often called associate spirits. Would anyone like to read the first one there? Richard.
Associate spirits. The kind of spirit that's associated with us is determined by the kind of person we are in respect to affection and love. Though good spirits are assigned to us by the Lord, while we ourselves summon the evil ones. The spirits with us change, however, as our own affections change. The spirits are of the same nature as the people they are associated with.
I think it's a really important concept there that the Lord assigns us good spirits. He doesn't assign us evil spirits. He allows for the fact that there's going to be that balance. There has to be that balance between heaven and hell. But it's not like he says, oh, I'm going to give you these two evil spirits. It's just that we attract them by the nature that we have.
Solomon.
Yeah.
The passage before that, I think a real striking sentence, because some people say that they really felt an angel. And yet it says, these spirits are with us, none from hell itself or heaven itself. That's a huge statement.
It
I mean,
is.
a spirit, I suppose, can mimic an angel. I mean, or we think they're an angel, or or a loved one that you know passed on, and it's been 50 years, and you think they're in heaven.
The way that I like to think of this, because we have to remember that time and space don't work the same way.
Yeah.
So we think of this idea of ripples or circles going out, which is unfortunately a spatial way of thinking. But maybe a better way to think of it is like being on the phone. I'm calling the operator, and the operator is the spirit that is closest to me. And they're going to connect me directly to somebody else.
Yeah.
And they are the angel. And so when we are connected to an angel, it's going to feel like they are right there with us, but it's still through the connection of the good spirit.
Yeah, okay.
I want to add that I pick this up a lot. There is a lot that gets lost in translation. We read the English Bible that was translated a bunch of times from Greek and Hebrew. And if I'm not mistaken, the word angel or angelos or whatever is translated as one who is sent.
Yeah, messenger.
So like it would make sense that the Lord in heaven would then send beings to connect with us.
Yeah, it's a good point. Would anyone like to read Divine Providence 50?
Because we're going in a circle.
Might as well.
Since angels and spirits are feelings derived from love and their consequent thoughts, they are not in space and time. As a result, when anyone thinks affectionately about someone else, with the focused intent of seeing or talking with that other individual, there is an instantaneous presence. This is why we all have spirits present with us, who are feeling the way we are. There are evil spirits with us when we feel drawn towards something that is evil, the way evil spirits are, and good spirits with us when we feel drawn towards something that is good, the way good spirits are. They are just as present as though they were accepted members of their community. Divine Providence 50.
This concept of associate spirits reminds me of, maybe you've heard the concept of the law of attraction or the secret. Have you ever heard of that? There's this concept of the law of attraction, which is very much like what is said in the Third Testament about associate spirits, that that there's this, it's almost just the way the physics of the spiritual world works, that like gravity almost, that we're attracted to these things that are like. There's a passage that I didn't have room for where it says like attracts like, I think, in a spiritual way. And that's true of spirits. So we have the choice in what we're thinking and feeling, mostly what we're thinking, what we're dwelling on. Because the more we dwell on things that are good and positive and true, the more that's going to attract those spirits. And the more we dwell on something evil and false, that's going to attract those spirits. It's just the way it works. And so our freedom of choice has very real impact spiritually. All right, moving on to another concept. Did you have something?
I'll keep reading if you want to read.
The next concept is that the earliest people on this earth had this direct communication with spirits that we don't typically have. Go ahead.
The earliest humans on our planet enjoyed this kind of union with heaven's angels, which is why their times are called the Golden Age. Because they acknowledged the divine in human form, and therefore were acknowledging the Lord, they talked with heaven's angels as they did with members of their own family, and heaven's angels talked with them in the same way. And in them, heaven and this world were a single whole. But after those times, people moved step by step away from heaven by loving themselves more than the Lord, and the world more than heaven. So they began to feel the pleasures of self-love and love of the world separately from the pleasures of heaven, ultimately to the point where they did not know there was any other kind of pleasure. Then their deeper levels were closed, the levels that open into heaven, while their outer levels were open to the world. Once this has happened, we are in the light in respect to everything in this world, and in darkness in respect to everything in heaven. Heaven and Hell 252.
So this is a concept we're going to come back to, one that's talked about in a number of places, that the earliest people had this direct communication. And one of the, I think, important principles that we can get from that is, as we'll see later, that we are designed for this. We are designed to be able to communicate with spirits and angels. It's just that we have, because of the way human nature and human culture has drifted, we have drifted away from that ability, but we do have that ability. So that gets talked about in the next three passages as well. This idea that for the most part, we're in a state of life as humans where we are cut off. You know, most people do not have this direct communication anymore. Would anyone like to read the next one? Tom.
Talking to spirits and angels was common on our planet in ancient times because their thought was concentrated on heaven and little on the world. But in course of time, that live contact with heaven was cut off as people ceased to be internal and became external. That is, as people began to concentrate their thought on the world and little on heaven. Secrets of Heaven 7802.
Thank you. This next one, I'll just read this next little blurb because there were so many passages that I've been looking at over the last few weeks, and I've had to whittle it way down. One of the ones I had to cut out because it was too long was talking about the story of the Lord shutting the door on the ark and how that represents this, what happened in the spirit, in the human race. That connection to heaven was shut off. And it's not that the Lord did it. That's the appearance. That's always the appearance to us that the Lord is doing this. But that we got to a point in the Noah's Ark story where we had cut off our connection to heaven. That's symbolized by that door being closed on the ark. Would anyone like to read the next one, Divine Providence 134? Audrey?
No one is reformed by visions or by conversations with the dead because they compel. There are two kinds of visions, divine and demonic. Divine visions are the kind that happen to the prophets. Things like this do not happen nowadays because if they did, they would not be understood, since they happen by means of images whose details are pointing to inner features of the church and secrets of heaven. It was foretold in Daniel 9:24 that they would stop when the Lord came into this world to seal up vision and prophecy. However, demonic visions have sometimes occurred. They are brought about by spirits who inspire deceptive passions and visions. Now, however, these spirits have been gathered by the Lord and consigned to a hell separate from the other hells. There are imaginary visions as well, but these are nothing but the illusions of a mind that has lost its bearings. The story that the Lord told about the rich man in hell and Lazarus in Abraham's lap shows no one is reformed by conversations with the dead, since this deprives us of rational functioning. No good spirit, let alone any angel of heaven, would ever do this. Divine providence.
Thank you. And this is a concept we'll come back to later too, that a key part in why we sometimes interact with spirits and sometimes don't has to do with the way the Lord protects our freedom. And he doesn't want us to be in any situation where we lose that freedom because we feel compelled to believe something because it's miraculous. So there's a very careful way that the Lord allows or doesn't allow contact with spirits. The next one is about spirit possession. I'll read this one. There are also spirits called natural and physical spirits who do not unite with our thoughts when they come to us the way other spirits do, but rather enter our bodies and take over all its senses, talking through our mouths and acting through our limbs. It seems to them entirely as though everything of ours were theirs. These are the spirits that possess people, but they have been cast into hell by the Lord and moved decisively away. So possession like this no longer occurs nowadays. Another concept that comes up a lot in the Third Testament, that there was a time when possession happened. We hear about it in the stories in the Word, but there came a time when that was not allowed to happen anymore. And so even though we see people being possessed in a sort of spiritual way, almost more like obsession with something, but we can't be physically possessed that way anymore, is what that's saying. The next concept is this idea that there's a difference between spiritual eyes and natural eyes, or a difference between spiritual ears and natural ears. Anyone like to read this one?
The angels with us do not see objects the same way we see them with our eyes. They also do not take in words the same way we hear them with our ears. But the way we think a thought. Oh, did I read that right? Sorry. They also do not take in words the same way we hear them with our ears, but the way we think a thought.
Yeah.
Okay. You can see that thoughts work in an entirely different way than speech by considering that we can think more in a minute than we can verbalize in half an hour, because thought is disassociated from spoken words. Sequence of thought.
So we hear a lot about this idea of people's spiritual eyes being opened. This happened with a lot of people in the stories in the Word. But it's also possible for our other spiritual senses to be opened. We can have our spiritual ears be opened, and we can hear thoughts from spirits. It's not very common, but it is possible. It's possible to have our spiritual ears be opened, and we're not hearing an actual language, we're hearing thoughts, and it translates into sounding like a language. There's lots of passages I had to leave out on this topic. It's fascinating. But the basic idea is when there's contact between spirits and people, it's this translation between spiritual eyes and natural eyes or ears, as it may be. The next set of teachings is a fascinating one about how spirits usually don't know that they're with us in the same way that we don't know that we are with them, usually. Would anyone?
Usually,
Usually, yes.
because there's counters to all of these
Oh,
things.
right. The last half of this document is all about the but. There are these counters and exceptions to all of these general rules.
Yeah, the general rules don't hold.
And that's what I wanted to get to tonight, is those ones.
I'll read.
Go ahead.
The spirits with us do not know they are with us. Only angels from the Lord know. This is because they are connected to our soul or spirit, not to our body. Thoughts expressed in bodily speech and wishes expressed in bodily deeds flow into action in an orderly way by means of general inflow and correspondence with the universal human governs the process. The spirits with us then have no part in the process. They do not talk through our tongue, that would be possession. Neither do they see anything in the world through our eyes or hear anything in the world through our ears.
Thank you. Would anyone like to read the next one?
I can do one.
Go ahead, David.
I was given a personal demonstration of the way spirits flow into a person on earth. When they come to us, they take on our entire memory, everything we have learned and absorbed since infancy. The spirits imagine the information is theirs, so they play our part inside us. Nonetheless, although spirits play our part inside us, so far as the activity of our thought and will is concerned, they are still unaware they are with us, because they possess everything in our memory and believe it all to be theirs, not someone else's. Another reason for them not to know they are with us is so that they will not hurt us. If the spirits from hell with us did not think our memory was theirs, they would make every effort to destroy us, body and soul. This is the essence of hellish pleasure, from Secrets of Heaven 6192.
Thank you. So, and this next one sort of continues in that thought about talking about why it is useful to have a disconnect, because it protects us from the evil spirits that want to control us. Would anyone like to read that next one?
I'll take it. Talking with spirits is rarely allowed nowadays, though, because it is dangerous. The spirits then actually know that they are with us, which otherwise they would not. And evil spirits by nature harbor a murderous hatred for us and crave nothing less than our total destruction, body and soul. This is what actually goes on in people who regularly lose themselves in delusions, even to the point that they lose touch with the pleasures appropriate to their natural person. There are some people who lead solitary lives, who sometimes hear spirits talking with them without risk. But the Lord keeps these spirits a little space away so that they do not know they're with these individuals. Most spirits, you see, are not aware that there is any other world than the one they are living in, or therefore that there are people anywhere else. So we are not allowed to talk back to them, since if we did, they would know.
It reminds me a little bit of the various times that Jesus said to people, don't tell anyone. And I wonder if that somehow connects also to this idea of, yeah, don't tell the spirits that there's another world, because these evil spirits are dumb enough to believe that there's only the spiritual world. And if they believed otherwise, they would do damage to us. So there's sort of this keep it secret, guys. But yeah,
To me, it's one thing for people to have some experience. But this, to me, is a danger of a Ouija board,
mm,
where people are, because another passage says, if you're in the state that you're gonna let them in, and you're summoning them.
yeah,
That was indicated before. And this indicates, they don't talk to them.
yeah,
So a Ouija board has a lot of dangers involved, because you're trying to contact them and you're trying to talk with them instead of just having an experience.
yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things, I can't remember if I was able to keep the passage in here, was talking about how when there's a spiritual connection, which is where we are connecting through thoughts or words, that's one thing. But there's a deeper connection, which is the connection through feelings. And so there seems to be this way in which angels, because they know that this is the better way to connect, are going to connect with us mostly through feelings. If they connect through words or images, that might lead to dangerous things, or you might get scared. But I know the experiences I've had have been mostly, but the positive ones have been mostly feelings. And in some ways that could be a clue that we're connecting on a real level, if it's about a close feeling as opposed to, oh, I just heard somebody speaking to me. That can happen, but the connection through feelings is a deeper one. I'll read this next one. This shows how dangerous it is to be in direct contact with spirits. And this is sort of my segue passage into the next section. If you do not have a goodness that comes of faith. There are many passages like this where there's this principle, yeah, don't connect to spirits, it's dangerous, blah, blah, blah. But there's almost always this but, or this if. And that's what the next section is going to be, all about the buts and the ifs of when it actually works to connect with spirits and how it actually works. Yeah,
I know this is one of the forbidden topics, but the goodness that comes of faith, if you think of spiritual reality, is basically a ground to stand on in a heavenly part of the other world. This goodness develops your landscape in the other world where the Lord can connect with you. If you don't have that goodness inside of yourself, you have nothing of the Lord inside of yourself for the angels to grab you away from those evil spirits. So it's really important to say, this is the physics of heaven. If you haven't got some goodness and you're messing around with, just random dialing hell, and expecting some good angel to pick up when you're random dialing hell, you haven't got the capability to reach hell, because you haven't got any landline in heaven.
yeah,
You know what I like to think about? If I were an angel in heaven doing what an angel in heaven does, it's probably some grandiose, useful, good thing way up here. If I get like someone back there, hey, someone summoned you to the natural world to talk to a Ouija board, do you want to do that? I'd be like, no, I'm good. I'm gonna keep doing my thing over here. So the ones that would do that, probably not the best spirits.
yes. And there's also the very, very true thing that angels in heaven love everyone. They love everyone on earth, and they want what's best for everyone on earth. And so even though I think you're right, they would recognize that sort of direct connection maybe isn't what's going to help them best. I think in some cases, especially with people that are close, like a spouse who has died, that might be exactly what they need. They might need that presence, that spiritual presence that is just that feeling of, I'm here and it's going to be okay. Just a feeling. And I imagine angels would jump at that, sort of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go help that person. But you're right, that for the most part, I think the angels would say, yeah, that way of connecting is not gonna help. Good way of saying it. So yeah, this next set of teachings is what I really wanted to get to. Would someone like to read the first one? Tom.
Pardon me. Secrets of Heaven, 68 to 70. I realize many will claim that no one can talk to spirits and angels as long as bodily life continues, or that I am hallucinating, or that I have circulated such stories in order to play on people's credulity and so on. But none of this worries me. I have seen, I have heard, I have felt. The Lord created us to be capable of communicating with spirits and angels while still living in our bodies, as people actually did in the earliest times. After all, we are one with spirits and angels. In fact, we ourselves are spirits clothed in flesh. Over time, though, people have immersed themselves so deeply in bodily and worldly concerns that almost nothing else interests them, and so the path has closed. But as soon as the body-driven concerns that absorb us drop away, it opens, and we find ourselves among spirits, living life together with them.
So this is one of we're gonna see a couple principles coming out of these next passages that are sort of giving us a clue as to what are the ways that we connect? What are the good, true ways that we can connect? One of them is the less that we are dwelling on the things of this world, and the more we are trying to elevate our hearts and minds to spiritual things, the more likely we will have those positive connections with spirits.
I'll read the next one.
Go ahead.
It is impossible for spirits, much less angels, to see anything in this world by their power of sight, or in other words, by the eyes of their spirit. Still, when it pleases the Lord, spirits and angels can see objects in the world through the eyes of a person on earth. This is an experience the Lord does not grant except to a person whom he allows to speak with spirits and angels and to associate with them. Through my eyes, they were allowed to see objects in the world and to see them as clearly as I did. They were also allowed to hear people talking with me. More than once, a few of them saw friends they had had during bodily life. Looking through my eyes, they saw these people just as close at hand as before, and it stupefied them. They also saw their spouses and little children and wanted me to tell their loved ones they were present and could see them, and to relay how matters stood for them in the other world. But I was forbidden to talk to these people and reveal that they were being watched in this way. Besides, they would have called me crazy or believed me to be hallucinating, because I knew that although they would pay lip service to the idea that spirits exist and the dead have risen again, they would not believe it in their hearts. When my inner sight first opened, and they saw the world and all that is through my eyes, spirits and angels were so dumbfounded that they called it the miracle of miracles. They were moved to a new kind of joy at the thought that earth would have this kind of contact with heaven, and heaven with earth. This pleasure lasted several months, but now that the experience has grown familiar, they no longer marvel at all. I was taught that the spirits and angels present with other people do not see anything in the world at all, but to only pick up on thoughts and feelings of those they are with. These experiences established the idea that we were created to live in heaven among the angels at the same time as we are living on earth among people, and vice versa. If that happened, heaven and earth would come together and form a single whole. We would know what was going on in heaven, and the angels would know what was going on in the world. When we died, we would then be crossing over from the Lord's kingdom on earth to the Lord's kingdom in the heavens. I would not be as though we were passing into a different kingdom, but into the same one we inhabited while we were living in our body. Instead, we have become so body oriented that we have shut heaven off from ourselves.
Wow.
Love that one.
I do too. And I'm gonna say that sometimes when I see somebody, I have a cousin whose mom passed, and she was singing the other night, and I think, I don't mind if you use my eyes to see your child play, because I know it brings you so much joy.
Mm.
And I say that, I do that all the time, because of this passage. I love this passage.
Yeah.
So actually, I wonder about that, because like, there's things that I love in this world. Baseball, the Phillies, Citizens Bank Park. I love going to Citizens Bank Park. When I pass from this world, I will not be able to go to Citizens Bank Park here in the world anymore. So is there still a connection there? Like,
Sure.
I feel like going to watch the 2093 Phillies. Can I just hop in a seat here and eat some popcorn and watch the 2098 Phillies?
Yeah, well, as this passage is saying, we've become body oriented, and that's part of the reason why we aren't connected with heaven. So the more we're connected with heaven, the more we're connected with the deeper parts of what brings us happiness. So that, baseball, that sort of thing, that brings a lot of people happiness. And we often think about it in terms of just the physical parts of that. But there's something deeper. There's a deeper thing that is bringing about that happiness. And that's something that angels would be very connected to. And whether that means they would want to see the stadium or not, I don't know. They would certainly, I can imagine certainly that angels would love to see the amount of happiness that might be in a stadium. But it's not so much about the stadium or the baseball or whatever. It's what is causing that happiness. And I can imagine that there are times when I mean, this is all speculation, but I love to imagine these angels or good spirits that are thinking, oh, if these two people are connected, that will be something really good. What can we do to bring about that connection while still keeping them in freedom? Okay, maybe a dream, and somebody that might be open to dreams, thinking through all those things that can bring about that connection. I don't know, we can't know exactly how all that works, but we know that the angels want that sort of thing to happen because there was a good result that came from that. I think most of the time when we have a connection with a good connection, like with an angel, with someone we love, that it's going to be about the feeling more than anything else, more than visual or something like that. Sometimes that'll happen, but I think that the real part is about that deep feeling connection.
I really want to get through this because some of these are some of my favorites.
Yeah,
But just there's a passage in Conjugal Love, the end of all the heaven of the golden age, silver age, and it says Swedenborg is weeping because of the nastiness of the exterior bits, and then all these angels start singing, and then he realized that people were going to be as conjugal love was going to be as it was back in the ancient times. And that's that connection with the Lord, that connection with heaven is just waiting for the new heaven in each person. Waiting for us to be in as in heaven, so on earth sort of thing.
Yeah. Thank you.
I was just wondering, since it's 8, are there a couple of key ones that you'd like to, I love hearing from the people too.
Yeah.
And I'd like to have time for that.
Yep. I'm hoping we can read through a few more. Let's see how far we can get.
should read straight through it. Well,
Yeah, let's do that.
We could try to read straight through and then leave the rest of the time for comments.
Yeah.
Where do we leave off?
We're up to conjugal love 321. Anyone want to read that one? Richard?
Two members of a couple in true marriage, love, that's two conjugal partners, are not actually separated by the death of one. But the spirit of the deceased continues to dwell with the spirit of the one not yet deceased. And this until the death of the other, at which time they come together again and are united, or reunited, loving each other even more tenderly than before, because they are in the spiritual world.
My favorite.
Love that one. I think that's a very comforting one for couples, and I think it's also one that couples they just feel that. They don't need to be told. They just know, yes, I know that they are here with me. They just feel it. Next one. Anyone like to read the next one?
I'll read it. I talked with several people a few days after they had died. Some of them had simply believed that people would be like ghosts after death, and this had been confirmed in the opinion by specters they had heard about. The stories led them to conclude that the soul is just some coarse animating element floating out from the life of the body at first, but sinking back into the corpse where it's extinguished. However, after death, we have a purified body, so to speak. There were some people I discussed this with on the very day their bodies were interred. Through my eyes, they saw their cadaver, the bier in the burial. They rejected the body, they would tell me. It had served them usefully in the world in which they had lived, and they were now living in a body that served them usefully in the world of their new life. They wanted me to tell this to their near and dear who were now mourning. If they did, they would ridicule it. I was allowed to answer. When they cannot see something with their own eyes, they don't believe it is real, so they would dismiss it as a delirious apparition. They cannot be led to believe that people see spirits when the Lord opens their inner eyes. As happened with the prophets who saw spirits and angels and many things in heaven, secrets of heaven, 45:27.
Thank you. Would someone like to read the next one?
I will. By genuine visions, I mean the vision or sight of things that really do exist in the other life. They truly are objects that can be seen with the eyes of the spirit, not the eyes of the body. People on earth see them when the Lord activates their inner sight. That is, the sight of their spirit, the same sight they come into when they are released from their body and cross into the other world. After all, people are spirits clothed in bodies. These are the kinds of visions the prophets had. When the eyes of our spirit open, then in daylight brighter than that of the noonday sun on earth, we see what actually exists among spirits. We see not only representations, but also the spirits themselves, and we perceive who they are and what they are like, where they are, where they come from, where they're going, how they feel, what they think, and even what they believe. All these impressions are confirmed without error by audible speech that precisely resembles human speech.
Thank you. Someone like to read the next one? Or I can take her.
I'll do it.
Oh, go ahead.
All spirits know how to talk to people when their natural or external memory is opened by the Lord. The way this is done is by their being taken back to their natural or external memory, and consequently to the thought level that had been theirs when they lived in the world. And at the same time, the inhabitants of the world have their interior sight or the sight of their spirit open for them. This is how the spirits appear to inhabitants of the world. The inhabitants of the world first realize that the spirits are not ordinary people when they are withdrawn suddenly from their sight. But at the present day, people are rarely given this experience for fear that such things will compel them to believe. For belief instilled under compulsion, such as that which miracles induce, is short-lived.
So you have to believe first.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that, what's the word, the phrase in the Gospels? Blessed are those who have
You believe.
believed but not
Who have
seen.
not seen but have.
Not
But
seen.
not-
Yeah,
I have a quick analogy for this. What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
uh, let's just say butter pecan.
If I took butter pecan ice cream and tilted your head back and shoved it down your throat, would you like that? But if I put butter pecan ice cream on the table and said, Solomon, does butter pecan ice cream on the table, you then have a choice to take it or not. That's how important freedom is.
Yeah, and that's why so many of the experiences we hear about are, it's like people were expecting them. Because they already believed it was possible, rather than, whoa, what was that? I wasn't expecting that. All right, let's power through the last few. I'll read the next one. We are allowed to talk with spirits, though rarely with angels of heaven. And many people have been allowed to for centuries. When it happens, though, they talk with us in our own everyday language and use only a few words. Further, the ones who have the Lord's permission to talk with us never say anything that would take away our freedom to think rationally. And they do not teach either. Only the Lord teaches us indirectly through the word when we are enlightened. Someone like to do the next one?
Conversations with angels is not granted except to people whose deeper levels have been opened by divine truths all the way to the Lord, truths that flow from good intent. Since it is into these that the Lord flows within us, and when the Lord flows in, so does heaven.
Second to last one, who'd like to do that one?
I'll take it.
Go ahead.
I'll do. Anyone during their lifetime in the world can in like manner hear spirits and angels, once the Lord has permitted them to talk to spirits and angels. For as to their interiors, the person is a spirit or angel, the body which they carry around in the world being merely that which is of service to them and the functions they perform in this natural or earthly sphere, which is the lowest. But no one is permitted to talk to spirits and angels as a spirit or angel unless their character is such that they can have fellowship with them in faith and love. Here's the reason why few are permitted at the present day to talk and mix with angels.
I love that one. Fellowship with faith, in faith and love, that's a connection. And the last one. Would like to.
Something more needs to be said about people who wait for something spiritually to flow in. The only people of this kind who actually receive anything are the few who deeply long for it. They occasionally receive a kind of answer, through a vivid impression, or a subtle voice in their thinking, but rarely through anything obvious. In any case, what they receive leaves them to think and act the way they want to, and the way they can. If they act wisely, they become wise. If they act stupidly, they become stupid. They are never told what to believe or what to do, otherwise their human rationality and freedom would be destroyed. That is, things are managed so that they act freely and rationally, and to all appearances autonomously, sorry. If some inflow tells us what to believe or what to do, it is not the Lord or any angel of heaven who is telling us, but some fanatical spirit, and we are being led astray. Everything that flows in from the Lord flows in by an enlightenment of our understanding and by the desire for what is true, actually through the desire into the enlightenment.
Right, the desire into the enlightenment, it always comes back to that, the feeling, the heart, which then can enlighten us. But I like the idea of changing the way we tell ghost stories and having it be more like that. These spiritual experiences that are very real.
To play devil's advocate, could you also have negative thoughts and be under demonic influence without even realizing it?
Yeah, there are passages that say that everything in our thoughts and feelings is flowing in from the spiritual world, everything. So whenever we have a good thought or a good feeling, that is coming from a good spirit or an angel. whenever we have a bad thought or a bad feeling, that's coming from an evil spirit. And we have the ability to try to make choices that lean one way or the other.
To consciously think on elevated things.
Yeah, and when we do, it's that law of attraction that brings more of whatever we're leaning into. But yeah, those feelings, those thoughts, it's hard to imagine. He said a number of places it says that it's hard to imagine. Nobody can believe this, that everything flows into us. But it seems to be the reality that everything is flowing in. Just fascinating.
I think it's really important to know the spiritual physics of how heaven and earth interact together. And that one passage you read was really important of unless we have some good inside of us, there's no connection. But also there are lots of passages about the limbus or the corporeal envelope in the world, and also huge chapters about spheres. There are spheres around everything in the natural world because the Lord is in it and it is in the Lord. So these spheres are the animating force from the Lord that makes this world exist. This world is just a corpse. It is only animated by the Lord being in it. So when we think about the Lord is outside of time and space, and how the time is even if you go Einstein, time doesn't really exist. It's a spatial construct that we have to be in order to be in order, but it doesn't really exist. And if you're receiving flashes from the other world, there are plenty of people who have cognition of future things happening and little blips that they don't understand, and then it happens. The fact is this world is only animated by the spiritual inside it. And when if you go on a ghost walk, you'll see all the time in the ghost walks that people do the same things over and over and over again. So you have someone, this is the ghost walking down the stairs with a lantern, or there's a woman who stands in the window, or one of the most famous ghost stories that has been repeated throughout hundreds of years and reported by people who had no idea that it had been reported before is this Roman legion going through York. And it goes right through the basement of a grand governor sort of person's house, is this Roman road, and this Roman legion was destroyed, and they've left a mark on the world, on this sphere of the world, that those people aren't doing the same thing. They go off and they're playing with their kids, or they're doing their work, or they're back in their farmers' fields, they're with their wives. They're not repeatedly walking in a horrible feedback loop down a thing, but the death or the thing was so horrible it left a mark, on a signature mark, like an after image on the world that just that the hells excite. And so that's why you get the spooky feeling. Well, that spooky feeling is just the presence of hell. But we know the celestial angels can go all the way in to the lowest hells and not be affected because they're in love to the Lord. Anytime you get that spooky feeling, you just say the Lord's Prayer. It'll bring the heavens with you, and you'll be in the presence of your angels. Just say, I trust you, Lord. I'm with you. And I love you, Lord, and the hells will go away because you'll be in the peace. So it's important to know that, because it's only the fear that makes us feel like we're outside of ourselves.
It's a great analogy. I love analogies. So that's like this thing. When you work out, right? You go pump iron, and if you were to see your muscles under a microscope, they get torn to shreds. It destroys your muscles. It's as if evil spirits are telling your muscles, you're not good enough to lift this weight.
Right.
So as we're lifting weights, we're like, oh, that was a rough workout. When we wake up the next day, the muscles grow back stronger. So in my mind, we're allowed to be attacked by the hells because we can overcome them.
Makes us stronger. I think that's part of why, going back to the beginning, we're surrounded by two good spirits, two evil spirits. Because the Lord knows that's going to make us stronger than if it was just all good spirits.
That number could also increase, couldn't it? From 2 to 3, 4.
Yeah, I think it says at least two,
At least, I think there's more than that, but it's always balanced.
right? It's always
When
balanced,
it's 10 evil spirits, we have 10 good spirits.
right, right.
But
Wow.
all sorts of things happen that like. We have no idea what's going on around us at the time, you know, I mean, there's so much unseen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and there's so many things that just end up being left to questioning and wondering. I think these passages give us some guidance, but the rest is all
Thank you
just,
so much.
we wonder and ponder and marvel at it all. So unfortunately, we live in a world of time and space. I know we could go on for hours, but we need to bring it to a close. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank you.